Trek Favorites. What are yours? Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner. Welcome to the very first edition of Trek Favorites. Why another Star Trek podcast? Well, I wanted to take this first episode and give you a little bit of the what's and the whys and the inspirations behind Trek Favorites before we launch into our regular format, which will include a guest. Trek Favorites is born out of a number of things. Some of you may or may not know me from a podcast I do called Mac Voices, and I've been doing that for quite some time. And it seemed that before, after, and sometimes even during those shows, the inevitable Star Trek references or discussions would break out. It could be something as simple as one of the quotable lines from Star Trek, or it could be a bit more of an in-depth discussion about the inspiration for real-world products that came from Star Trek. It was always all over the place. And a number of the guests and I have talked about having a Star Trek discussion or a Star Trek show or something, or a vehicle to discuss Star Trek. And we really haven't had one up until now. Here it is. The second inspiration comes from the podcast Mission Log Live with Ken Ray and John Champion. At the end of Mission Log Live, they throw out to their guests something they call the lightning round. Sometimes it's a what is your favorite kind of question. Sometimes it's an A-B kind of question, an either-or kind of question. And I love those because sometimes the answers they come up with are just surprising. And I often want to know why. Why did they choose that particular series, that particular episode, that particular ship, that particular captain? And that's one of the other things that happens with Star Trek fans, is inevitably you have these discussions about what is your favorite this, what is your favorite that. And so with Trek Favorites, I don't want to ask anybody what their favorite is. I want to ask them what one of their favorites or some of their favorites. Because as you probably know if you're watching this, there are a whole lot of Star Trek series, there are a whole lot of Star Trek movies, there are even more novels and audiobooks and comics, and the list just goes on and on. College courses. Star Trek is really a cultural phenomenon that has affected our culture in so many ways. Finally, Jean MacDonald and I had some discussions about doing Star Trek podcasts as she was wrapping up her Sestra cast for the Orphan Black TV show. And Jean has started a Voyager Revisited Star Trek that looks like it has some of the same features that we'll be talking about, but she's focused on Voyager. For Trek Favorites, I'm opening up to the guests for any of the Star Trek series. Pick your series, pick your episode, and then tell me what it is about that episode that resonates with you. What makes it something that you want to go back and revisit. It doesn't have to be a deep meaning, although it certainly can be. It might be something as simple as, hey, it was a really good story, or I really enjoyed the comedic parts of it. Whatever works. I think it's going to be interesting to dig into the minds of some of my friends, maybe some people you know, from both the Apple world as well as the Star Trek world, and find out what it is that makes Star Trek special to them. So the format is going to be just that. One guest, one episode. We are not going to have a hard time limit, simply because I don't believe in that. If we discuss for an hour, if we discuss for 10 minutes, whatever works. So what you're going to see or hear, first of all, if you are subscribing to the audio podcast, obviously you're going to get audio. If you want to see the video of the show, I will be recording it, editing it, and posting it to our YouTube channel and embedding the video in the Trek Favorite websites. So what you will have is an audio player as well as the YouTube embed there, so you can watch or just listen, whatever your bandwidth and your time and your circumstance allow. I hope you will enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to some of this because these are conversations I've wanted to have with my friends and just never seem to get around to it. And now I've got a reason to do it, and I want to share those with you. So that's Trek Favorites. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @TrekFavorites. Please feel free to follow along, offer your comments and your thoughts. I would love to have them. And while you're there, what are your Trek favorites? I'm Chuck Joyner. We'll be back with the very first guest on Trek Favorites soon, but until then, thanks for listening. Visit TrekFavorites.com to access all our shows, watch the video versions on our YouTube channel, and connect with us on Twitter and Facebook as @TrekFavorites.